All right, guys, welcome to the end of day as well as end of month recap for the month of November. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group. So what I will do in this video is just talk about how the month unfolded a little bit. I'll try to be brief because I have a meeting I've got to attend shortly, but I definitely want to go through some of the themes and some of the takeaways from this month. We could talk a little bit about the price action for today. I thought there was a little bit of month-end selling, and then at the end of the day, there was a bit of month-end buying. I think there was over $6 billion to buy for MOC close. So where does this leave us? This is just a chart of the S&P futures. Not really much has changed. I mean, it really kind of a kick save there at the end of the day because we are staying above the 5-period moving average. So so the show goes on in terms of, the trend continues to, price continues to stay above the 5-period moving average. The Qs had fared a little bit worse for the day. There was mostly like throughout the session. Again, this just end of the day buy and balance brought this back up here. So for now, yes, there was a little bit of rotation. Just bring this up really quick. If you look at the even after the move up at the end of the day, you could see that the Magnificent Seven, or the Great Eight as I refer to them, and again, I have this in a spreadsheet just because they're liquid names, so many people are watching them, but they were all under pressure today. So I think as I've mentioned a couple times this week, that some rotation out of this group, to me, they looked a bit overbought. Yesterday, we noticed some bearish engulfing candles in a couple of these names. Meta was one of them. I think Google was another one that had a bearish engulfing candle. And then Meta also, looked like there was some selling yesterday, right? And again, like, you don't need to know about like every single like put that hits the tape, or what people like to what's popular these days in terms of dark pools, which is just a fancy way for saying block trades, and it's also some aggregated fills too that happen that people come up with, and they think that they're dark pools. They're really not. It's just the way that orders are coded these days. But regardless, right? Look at the volume. I was going over this example earlier. This is Meta, right? You could see, look at the volume, right? So you could count block trades if you really like to, if that helps you. But I think just looking at the price activity, the price action, and the volume, right? When you start to see volume pick up like this, and you see some big blocks hit, remember how institutions mainly trade. They accumulate, and on the way up, right? They usually piece into an order, and then when they want to be out of a trade or reduce their exposure, they do that. They do it a little bit more larger, right? A lot of times, like, so when I was an institutional trader, I would see some investors like buy in like 50,000 share increments, and then once they've met their price target and they want to reduce their position, they sell a whole bunch. Like, they'll sell 500,000 shares, right? And they'll usually facilitate through a broker, through a block trade, right? They'll say, hey, they'll call up their broker, whether it's a Goldman, Morgan, Merrill, right, or Bank of America these days, and they'll say, hey, how can I sell 500,000 shares, right? And the broker puts them up in a block, and it hits the tape thereafter, right? So look at Microsoft, for example. And again, there's nothing wrong with this, right? There's nothing wrong. Like, I reduced my exposure in one of my accounts in Microsoft yesterday too. It's just kind of smart after that type of a run, right? So you could see the volume kind of pick up there yesterday, right? That's selling. So again, you don't need to count like all the block trades or the dark pools, right? Just simply looking at the price and looking at the volume is going to tell you enough of the story. And also, if you want to use the technicals like I do, 5-period moving average, note again, there was some buying at the end of the day, but to me, it's logical, and it's actually healthy for these groups to kind of come in, because I, like other institutions, would like to get back into Microsoft if it dips a decent amount. Now, I don't know if I'll get that. I don't have a crystal ball, but it would be logical for like a retest of the 20-day moving average, right? And so on and so forth in those bigger names. And then if you look at some other, groups that did well today, I was very impressed with like what GE did today, right? Look at some of the steel names today, STLD, right? So this is good, right? Like it's good to see other groups, not just one group, go ballistic to the upside, right? That's not sustainable. Now, again, I can't control, even though that's what I would like to see is other groups like this outperform like they did today. If you look at some of these names after the close, right, they're still they're still churning out good earnings. ESTC is up a bunch, right? That's really nice. What's the other name that I just Path, right, is up as well, right? So we're still seeing these names for the most part, not every name, but IoT is up, right? Two VPOCs in this one. Alta had a good number. So, this is continuing to be encouraging as we enter a new month, which will be December, the last trading month of the year, right? Which sometimes we see a little bit of a pause in terms of seasonality in the beginning of the month, but I don't have a crystal ball. That's normally what we normally see. So I wanted to talk about how this month unfolded a little bit, right? I see so many people, so I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about what I see a lot of people doing, right? There's a lot of victory laps that's on Twitter. I get that, right? It's you make a good market call and you want some recognition for it, right? But you don't have to go predicting always what the next move is going to be. Yes, things kind of lined up right in the beginning of the month. So some of the things. So for me, right, I always put out my performance at the end of the month. Right, I do that every month. I've been doing that now for a couple of years, and I'll do that again. I was up about, I think, what did I say? And I'll have my official statements out from E-Trade in a couple of days, but I always put this into a spreadsheet and measure it myself. But for November, I was up 13%. So a good, like a nice month, nice healthy month. I capitalized on the trends, right? And I didn't come into the month having to predict anything, right? If you are just being objective and reading some of the signals, right, you're going to do fine. Right. I think that's more amateurish to me for people to kind of try to make predictions about what's going to happen month to month. Right. Notice what price action is doing. Notice what breadth is telling you, right? Notice what bonds, the dollar, are doing, right? Try to keep it simple, right? And you don't need to go out on a limb and make predictions. For the month, that brings me up 34%. I did not have a very good October. I did a little bit too much of that in October. I tried to predict. I'm like, well, we've heard that October is going to be such a strong seasonal month, right? October fell apart at the end of the month, right? Here's what October did. So if you played that game in October, right, of making predictions, you got penalized for that, right? The beginning of the month started off well, but we got rejected in there, and the last couple weeks of the month were horrible, right? And I saw people doing that all October too, trying to make predictions about what's going to happen because of seasonality and so forth. It is much better, right? And I'm always in trying to improve my trading plan as well, right? Just because I've been doing this for a long time doesn't mean I have everything figured out, and that's the same thing for everybody, right? You still need to follow a disciplined trading plan, know when to cut your losses, right? Know when to press and be a little bit more aggressive, right? And that's what this was. So so again, tune out the stuff on Twitter about people telling you how they predicted it, right? The beginning of the month, right? If we go back, price action immediately started to look better towards the end of the month. If you just use the 5-period moving average, which helps me in my trading, we stayed above the 5-period moving average for the whole month. Again, you didn't need to predict anything. Also, what lined up, and I sent this out, I think originally on the 3rd of October, talked about how the dollar started to, this is the high point of the dollar, right? This is UUP. This was the first of the month. And then we began to kind of break down. But yes, we made a new high in the dollar on the 31st, right? So there's no point in predicting, right? Once you started to see this break down, right, and go lower, that was a good sign for the market, right? That's the dollar, very important, right? And then bonds. What did bonds do, right? I started to hear people say at the, in October, oh, bonds made a low. Right. Well, though they didn't, and they didn't do that until the very end of October, right? And then we started to see this rally in the beginning of the month, and it was helped by CPI data and so on and so forth. But yes, these things go hand in hand, right? When you're looking at when you're looking at what's going on in rates, the dollar, right? and then equities, the prices. And then of course, you know, looking at what market breadth is telling you as well. You want those things to kind of confirm one by one, right? And one of the one of the tools that I use is to look at breadth, and you could use it. You could use various other things, but I look at the McClellan summation index, right? So this is $NICE. I put this on Twitter every so often. I haven't put it on Twitter in about a week because there's been nothing new. Notice where this crossed over, right? So again, you didn't have to try to estimate this in October. You just wait for it to happen, right? Now, again, look at the move. So all month long, we've seen an increase in breadth. And this is what you should be trying to capture, right? If you're a trend trader like me, which a lot of successful traders, I think, are, you don't want to, you know, in my opinion, I don't try to time the market turns. Why? Because I know that this is so much more profitable if you're in it for this whole amount rather than trying to catch these things, right? So, you know, traditionally, trend traders do not try to time the market tops or the bottoms, right? That's a fool's game, in my opinion. Or the other thing too that I'll say is, listen, if you're really good at timing bottoms or top and picking tops, right, then keep doing it. But I think that's much harder than just finding where the trend changes and then staying with it. I think that's actually harder for most people to do. Most people see a profit and they want to take it, and then they want to do a victory lap, right? The harder thing is to stay in this while it's still doing this, right? And that's why I've been, you know, if you read my notes in the morning, what I've been kind of saying is, hey, watch this 5-period moving average. We're watching for something to change here. And if it doesn't, right? And that's why sometimes the smaller time frame helps us a lot, right? So for example, this Qs, we've actually broken both ways here and have been rejected. We broke to the upside yesterday. That was rejected, right? We tried again today. That was rejected in the morning, right? We did break lower. We came very close to, by the way, taking out this virgin point of control, and we're back inside the value area. So it does feel like, you know, maybe this is putting in a top, but I don't know that for sure. And for now, we're just inside the value area. We're going to have a whole new set of value areas for the month of December. It looks like this the Qs are going to open up inside the value area. If you look at SPY, and we'll look at that value area too, that's also going to open up inside the value area. Right, and here's where, so SPY's a little bit different, right? And this did actually close above this thin value area for the week. Look at the diamonds, by the way. I thought this was very impressive. You know, which of these didn't act the same? I mean, the diamonds ripped. Now, of course, there's things, you know, if you break apart the diamonds, well, first of all, there's only 30 stocks in here, right? But I want the mover. Sorry, wrong screen. Right. You could see Salesforce is in this. UNH. By the way, look at what some of these stocks did today. Right. UNH actually has a breakout now. So this is kind of bottled up for the last couple of weeks, right? As it kind of got to the top of value. Look at what the stock did today, up 3.4%, and now trying to break out. Right. So I had a lot of questions today about healthcare for some reason. I think healthcare, listen, you don't have to try to force these things, right? Here's what healthcare looks like on a weekly chart. Does this make me excited? No, it doesn't. It's sideways. Could it resolve higher? Sure. But why not be patient and wait for it? Or pick some of the stocks. You could go through the group and you could pick some of the stocks that might be actually breaking out. One of them is UNH, right? And so on and so forth. I want to talk a little bit about the I mentioned the performance for the month. You might be surprising, but the home builders turned in the best month. Now, a lot of that was made on one particular day. So, you know, if you look at this, right? Well, actually, it made a nice rally, went sideways for a little bit, and then jumped on the CPI. And since then, has been basically going sideways. I actually got stopped out of a trade this morning. Perhaps I set my stop a little bit too low. That's fine. You can always re-add the trade. But blockchain stocks or cryptos, they were up a lot of groups were up at 15 or 16%. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but blockchain, software, semis, those were all up around 15, 16%. A lot of strength there. The banks actually turned up 14%, right? Biotech, also up 14%. So a lot of groups, right? And for the month, right, this should be accurate. But you know, as I went over yesterday, TLT is up about the same as SPY for the month. Actually, TLT actually outperformed, right? So again, that bonds and stocks confirming one another, right? That much needed rally in bonds took the pressure off equities, right? Rates going higher, right? And we're talking about the long end of the curve. You know, put some pressure on there, right? Small caps did okay too, right? I keep hearing about, oh my God, we're gonna see this rotation into small caps. Well, take note of what the charts are telling you. Don't, you know, my opinion. Listen, I'm not giving advice here. You do whatever you like. But is this exciting to you, right? Look at the weekly chart. Right. So it may, rather than the small caps. And again, I'm watching the small caps. I'm monitoring. I'm not ruling that out. I'd never do that. Right. But this just doesn't exactly get me excited. I think that you might see rotation into other sectors, other groups, because now I hear everybody saying that there's going to be rotation into small caps. For one, I have to see it first. I'm not going to make that prediction. And again, I don't mind being a little bit late. Right? You don't have to be the first, you know, the first one in. It's nonsense. So try to tune out some of these things of the victory laps of people predicting and trying to tell you that oh my God, we called it. Forget about it, right? Trade what's in front of you, wait for a signal, and then, you know, go after it. But you know, these things will come to you. And right now, like, this doesn't jump off the chart as saying, oh my God, this is the next group that's going to outperform. It could be it could be next year, by the way. We only have one more month of this year. And maybe if we break above this value area, that might be something. But for now, it's okay to be a doubter on some things, right? You don't have to go with what, you know, people making all types of predictions, because I'll tell you what, if they're wrong, they'll never revisit it, right? That's what people do. And especially the really good salespeople on Twitter. All right, guys, that is it for the month. What a great month. I hope you excelled. I hope you did well. This was one of my best, I think this was actually my best month of the year, and it's nice to be up about 34% year to date. It's not a home run year for me, but you know, nice to get back on track and have a solid month. Have a great end of the day, and again, look forward to trading with you guys in December.